Hello everybody and welcome back to another EP video. California Governor Gavin Newsom has only been in office for 2 years, but there have already been 5 failed attempts to force a statewide recall election on whether to remove him from office. That itself is not entirely unusual. California has some of the most unrestricted recall requirements in the country. But what is unusual is that the 6th attempt, which is currently underway, appears to be gaining some serious traction. If it makes the ballot, the election would be just the 4th gubernatorial recall election in all of American history. And 2 of the previous 3 governors to face recalls ended up going down in defeat, including California's in 2003, when in the midst of a statewide fiscal crisis, 55% of voters opted to recall Democrat Gray Davis and elected Republican Arnold Schwarzenegger in his place. That may seem like a bad omen for Newsom until you consider the special circumstances of this recall effort and the political evolution in California. So why is it that this attempt is different from the last 5? Ultimately, it comes down to timing and increased discontent with Newsom's leadership. And both of those things have coincidentally been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. After having earned very positive reviews early in the pandemic, Newsom is now under fire even from his allies for his handling of the coronavirus. He went back and forth over the legislature's proposed vaccination rules and has struggled to convince teachers and administrators to reopen schools. California has also changed its vaccine distribution plan several times since vaccines became available, catching some providers unprepared, and it currently ranks 39th among the 50 states in terms of percentage of doses administered. And finally, but perhaps most importantly, his policy on lockdowns has pleased no one. Conservatives have accused him of strangling the economy with restrictions on businesses, while public health experts on the left have criticized his decision last month to lift regional stay-at-home orders as premature. And Newsom also sparked national outrage in November by violating his own COVID-19 restrictions, when he attended a posh dinner party unmasked indoors with at least 11 other people at the French Laundry, an exclusive restaurant in Napa Valley. Newsom apologized repeatedly for his hypocrisy, but the damage had already been done. Prominent Republicans began to endorse the recall effort, bringing it more media and public attention, and the campaign started to raise significant sums of money as well. Even so, the recall might have gone nowhere had it not been for a judge's decision to give organizers almost double the normal amount of time to collect signatures in light of the difficulties posed by the pandemic. And it certainly looks like that extra time has made a significant difference. As of November 17th, which was the original deadline for collecting signatures, the campaign told the Daily Caller it had collected fewer than 750,000 signatures, out of the 1,495,709 necessary to trigger an actual recall election. But as of this past Sunday, they claim to have collected more than 1.4 million. That being said, the state does still need to verify that all of those signatures are valid. But 410,087 of the 485,650 that the state has checked so far are indeed valid. And at that validation rate of 84%, organizers only need to submit 1.8 million signatures or more before the deadline on March 17th, an easily attainable goal. But all things considered, I would personally not bet on this recall actually removing Newsom from office, not yet anyways. For starters, previous recall campaigns that have made the ballot have done so thanks to intense grassroots opposition to the governor, but this one may deserve a bit of an exception because of all the extra time it had to collect signatures. Furthermore, California's current political landscape is also much different from conditions in 2003, when it last saw a gubernatorial recall on the ballot, and that is important as it makes a successful recall of Newsom even less likely. First off, California may have been Democratic-leaning in 2003, but it has a notably deeper shade of blue today, which will make it a much harder challenge for Newsom's opponents to engineer his ouster. Consider that 3 years prior to Davis's recall in 2003, Al Gore had won just 53% of California's vote. And just a year later in the 2004 presidential election, John Kerry won the state with 54% of the vote. Nowadays, Democrats pull in notably larger statewide vote shares. Just last November, President Joe Biden received 63% in the Golden State after Hillary Clinton won 61% in 2016. Gavin Newsom also won far more support in his 2018 election win, 62%, than Davis did in 2002, 47%. And correspondingly, far fewer Californians call themselves Republicans nowadays. Just before the 2020 election, 46% of California voters were registered as Democrats, while 24% were registered as Republicans. By comparison, at the time of the 2003 recall, 44% were registered as Democrats and 35% were registered as Republicans. Not to mention that independents in California lean somewhat Democratic today as well. Now, second of all, at a similar point in the recall calendar, Davis was more unpopular than Newsom currently is. The recall campaign against Davis stopped gathering signatures in mid-July of 2003, and the measure qualified for the ballot later that month. Just before that time, surveys by the Public Policy Institute of California and the Field Poll found Davis's approval rating in the low 20s and his disapproval in the high 60s or worse among voters. By comparison, Newsom's ratings are far better, if not especially great. Morning Consult found 51% of California voters approved of Newsom's performance over the past month, compared to 39% who disapproved, while in January, PPIC found 52% approved versus 43% who disapproved. However, not every recent poll found Newsom above 50% approval. A late January survey from the UC Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies put him slightly underwater, with 46% approval and 48% disapproval. And while we don't yet have much polling on a Newsom recall, it does look a lot better for him than it did for Davis in the summer of 2003. A recent poll from Berkeley IGS found that 36% of registered voters would support recalling Newsom, while 45% would oppose it, and the breakdown was 36% to 49% among likely voters. And once again, by contrast, support for recalling Davis was more or less reversed, as surveys found around 50% backed the recall, while around 40% opposed it. All of this being said, should a recall election occur, the thing to watch will be whether Democrats and independents become more supportive of it. Among registered voters, the Berkeley IGS survey found that only 11% of registered Democrats and 32% of independents would vote to recall Newsom. And while 84% of registered Republicans supported the recall, an increase in support among Democrats and independents will be necessary for Newsom to lose. When Davis fell back in 2003, the Edison-Matovsky exit poll found that about 1/4 of Democrats and a majority of independents supported his recall. Now, of course, things could get worse for Newsom, such that he becomes more endangered. His approval ratings could sink and more Californians could become supportive of recalling him. But while a recall election does look likely, Newsom seems well positioned to survive it, at least for the moment. That is all for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please make sure to follow EP Official on all of my social medias linked in the description down below. Also, make sure to comment your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, and please hit the like button if you liked the video as well. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching. Check out more content from my channel here, and as always, tune in next time. EP out.